something we all need. Gotta have it now if you wanna succeed. Striving, surviving, that's no doubt. Sticking together, we gon' find a way out. To all you young people, give it your all. To all you young people, give it your all. To all you young people, give it your all. To all you young people, give it your all.
Good morning, the back community. Thank you, as always, for staying involved. Thank you for staying engaged. I'm so excited. And I tell you why I'm so excited, one, we've reached the end of season four. It has been a beautiful season in season four. So thank all of you guys for staying chimed in. Season four's theme was Dream Bigger, and this year we had a host of guests who taught us how to dream bigger. And in conclusion of season four, I was thinking about how I could best situate the people, the Black community audience, with some helpful Jews that'll help us throughout the summer. And I'm just like, what can we do? What can we do? What would be important? And relationships is always on my mind. Marriage is always on my mind. And I was just like, you know what? I have the perfect person to bring on the Black community. So without further ado, I want to introduce you to today's guest, who's going to be Miss Laura Gethers. I like to say Laura get hers, but of Love Harder Marriage Coaching. And I want to say thank you for agreeing to be on the Back Community Podcast. And I look forward to diving into your story today.
It is my pleasure to be here, and I can't wait.
Hooray! All right. Well, listen, I always try to do my best introducing everybody to be a gracious host. But after 20 some odd years of working with people in the public, I've realized that nobody can introduce us better than how we can introduce ourselves. So, Laura, my first question for you on the Back community is going to be, who is Laura? Please tell us about you and what is your ministry? What is the work that you do?
Thanks again for having me. Who is Laura? Laura is a wife of almost 16 years. In July, it'll be 16 years, a mother of two, a daughter, a friend, a sister, and a marriage coach. I love the work that I get to do. I have the opportunity and the responsibility of equipping couples with the tools they need so their relationship can succeed. And I do that through multiple streams. I host conferences, an annual conference every year, which is one of my favorite things to do. Hopefully, we can talk about this year's conference coming up.
Absolutely.
I do workshops, I write books, and I create other tools that help you process where you are and where you want to be in your relationship. That's what I love about coaching. You get to help people reach that expected outcome at the end. And so once again, I'm excited to be here and I'm excited to talk about all things relationships. So thank you again for having me.
Oh, listen, like I said, thank you for being on. And I think it's the perfect time to have you on. One, because Laura and I were just conversing before we started formally recording and talked about how crucial these summer months can be for couples, for marriages. And, it is a ministry that is near and dear to my heart. I love my wife. My wife and I will be together, have been together for 12 years, 10 years married this year. And, I'm always looking for ways to keep it thriving, to keep it popping, to keep it sexy, to keep it friendly, all of those things. And I think as many tools that you can add into your toolbox will help you to navigate those summer months or those summer seasons or whatever it is that you might be going through. And I love the work that you're doing. So I just knew you were the perfect person to bring on to talk about it. And I know we talked about how impactful the summer months could be.
Yeah.
What has your experience been as a marriage coach, as a relationship coach, with couples and marriages through the summer months? Like how do those dynamics change?
I'll put it like this. If I work during the summer, I can rest during the rest of the seasons.
Ooh,
That's how many inquiries I get during the summertime where couples are not connected. They are constantly in conflict, which conflict isn't a bad thing unless you address it in the wrong way. Then it becomes a bad thing, right? um, fights about finances because, the ones who want to reel it in and then the
Mm,
ones who want to vacate all summer, and just not being able to be on the same page. I think it's crucial during the summer months, before you even enter into the summer months, that you sit down and write out a plan. How are we going to incorporate what you like, what I like, and still maintain our household budget?
mm,
Talk about what you want to experience with your spouse during those months so that come August, you're not talking about divorce. Come August, you're not talking about separation. Come fall
mm.
season, you are not falling apart in your relationship. So the summer months are crucial. I think it's crucial that we take time to plan out what it is that we want so that we're not disappointed, frustrated, and angered.
Mm, mm. Yeah, I love it, but it makes me ask the question, how do we prepare? And I'm going to ask you as the expert in this field, how do you prepare your clients that you work with to have the tools necessary to get through these seasons, to plan in advance, right? Because I'm not sure how much talking, how much communicating we're doing in advance to really prep ourselves or to be mindful that these stats are real. Like, like what they say, almost 50% of marriages end in
A little
divorce.
bit
And then
more
they
than
say it gets
50.
higher as you continue to go on and get remarried. I think people on a third marriages, their divorce rate is like 75% or something like that.
Yes.
So, how do you coach your clients? How do you coach individuals or couples to strengthen their relationships or to prepare for those hot months?
I like that term. Don't be surprised if I use that again.
All
I like the
yours.
hot months. How to cool down during the hot months. So let's start with individuals. So I have this workshop. It's called So You Want to Step into the Ring, right? So I don't want to say all, but I have a series of workshops. And the first one is So You Want to Step into the Ring. And then it's How to Fight Fair is the next one. And then after that, we're talking about how can you continue to develop as an individual within your relationship. So back to the So You Want to Step into the Ring, I talk about the importance of knowing yourself, having accountability, having a trainer, having a cut man. Do you know what a cut man is in boxing?
Absolutely. He's gonna get you. He's gonna get you back in shape. He's gonna fold out all of those lumps you got on your face right now.
Yes. And I think when we are single, we think that we're so great, we're so awesome, right? And so anyone who comes in and they are pushing against us or they challenge us or we enter into conflict with them, we think we can just cut them off, especially this generation. We can just
Mm,
cut them off. But in relationships, you are going to have issues where you're going to get a little bruised up. Your ego is going to get a little bruised up, right? You can get hit with the, oh, you're not so great because you have this person looking right at you and they're
mm,
saying, mm-mm. And you get to see all of your flaws
mm,
and you need someone to repair you quickly. You need to learn some techniques to help you repair quickly so that you're not harboring unforgiveness or strife in your heart
mm,
towards this person who was honestly telling you the truth. Now, did they say it properly? I don't
mm,
know. But they're telling you the truth about who you are. So we talk about having a coach, having a trainer, having a cut man, having a referee while you are single and what this looks
mm,
like and why it allows you to step into the ring prepared for what you want. And when you are prepared, then you're going to look for someone who is prepared as well, right?
mm.
Because lightweights don't get in the ring with heavyweights. It
Not at
just doesn't
all.
happen. It can't happen, right? It's against the rules and regulations. And so when people talk about being unequally yoked, sometimes that's what's happening. Lightweights are getting in the ring with heavyweights and they're getting knocked out
Mm, mm.
and they're
I love that
disappointed
analogy.
and they have unrealistic expectations or uncommunicated expectations. Why? Because your maturity level isn't where it needs to be in order for you to step into that ring.
Mm,
So that's what we do in regards to the singles. We're talking about the preparation and even newlyweds. We're talking about the preparation of a team. A lot of times when I go to these bridal showers and stuff and I roll my eyes intentionally, the worst advice that I hear, and I hear it often, is don't allow anyone into your relationship.
ooh,
you can't do marriage alone.
Say that again.
You can't do marriage alone. You need a team of people around you, whether it's that coach who you're going to go to help you get a realistic perspective of what it looks like to thrive in a healthy relationship, right? And you need trainers. They may be individuals, financial coaches, or therapists that are going to come alongside of you to help you become a whole individual while you're in your relationship. You need the referees who are saying, hey, you're not playing, you're not fighting according to the rules. You need people, you need your fans in the stands who are rooting
Mm,
you on, encouraging you, supporting you. So you need people in your relationship. You just need the right people in your
mm,
relationship, right? That's how we thrive. That's how we are able to meet our own relationship goals, which we all should have. And that's how we're able to connect as a couple. So that's what I like to do during the summer months is remind couples of their goals, remind them of
mm,
why they have joined together and what they're trying to accomplish within their relationship. And then we look at it. Okay, so now we're in this season. What should we be doing? And we don't
mm,
start today. We
mm,
should have started. And I tell people to start, like to write out their annual plan during their anniversary. I think it's a good
mm.
time to sit and reflect on what went well, where you're trying to go and how you're going to get there and who's going to lead each aspect of that relationship so that you get there. And so when you have a plan and you have steps to achieve it, then most likely it's going to happen.
Mm. I like it. I like it. And it's you are forcing the individuals first to do the work individually
Mhm.
so that that way when they do come together collectively, you're not a lightweight in a ring with a heavyweight, right?
Mhm.
And my wife and I watched this. We might have been at like year 7 of our marriage or something like that, but we watched Pastor Todd's. He had a series called Relationship Goals. I have his book behind me too.
Me too.
uh,
I have it right.
yeah, yeah. Listen, I love relationship goals, and it's a
Yes.
second book that I tell everybody called How We Love. And we listen.
Yes.
How We Love changed our
I
relationship.
love your resources.
Yeah, listen. They changed it in about 3 days. That's how fast How We Love changed my marriage. And I tell everybody, all my friends, they always ask, like, how are you guys thriving? Or how do you guys do this? And it was just like, well, How We Love is a great book. And I'm sorry I'm going off on a
Mhm.
tangent because I was about to say something else. Man, anyway, well, that was good. How We Love and relationship goals are really important. That's what it was. Pastor Todd says how in our season of singleness, right?
Mhm.
We need to be doing the work to develop ourselves, right? And
Mhm.
it wasn't until my wife and I have watched that at year 7, and she was just like, man, in my times of singleness, I could have done more time to just been quiet with myself and not moving forward or
Yes.
not moving around. And it was just like me, I'm a Virgo. I'm always analyzing. I'm always introspective. So it was just like, I was always looking at what I wanted and what I didn't want, but I also didn't have somebody else, like you said, you need that cut man to point different things out to you. I thought I was a whole man altogether
Mhm.
already. And then I meet my wife and I realized, actually, you know what? I got several spaces that I need to be improving on. And one of them is my communication skills and how do I
Yeah.
communicate and how do I let things go? Like I come from a very emotional family. So we would
Mhm.
argue with you and fight you until we're blue in the face. And it wasn't until I met her that there's other avenues or ways to handle it, and that's the beauty of having somebody to look at you and examine you. And as long as you're open to it, you can learn the tools that you need to learn. But I like that you focus in on the individual first, spending the
Mhm.
time to iron out those areas, and then once she can see herself and I can see myself, now we can see what or create a vision for how to work together, utilizing our
Mhm.
strengths, and then, to overall have a successful relationship.
Absolutely.
Yeah. But you like relationship goals and how we love? Yeah.
Yes. I
They're
don't
sitting back
think that
there.
enough people, you're going to make me post about how we love because a lot of people talk about the five love languages,
Yep.
but that book, How We Love, is definitely in my top
Mm,
five.
nice.
I just think it is such a resource to help you understand you. I think
Mm,
the more we understand ourselves, the better we can show up for others.
Mm, Listen, like I said, it took us 3 days. One, oh, we looked at like and how we love. Like I said, so for everyone that's listening or watching, we highly suggest you go out and grab that book. They have a workbook that is associated with it
Yes.
too to help you do the work. But it'll point out different patterns for you, right? And for
Mm.
my wife and I, once we realized what our pattern was, we was like, wait a minute, somebody's in our room, somebody's in here filming this
Watching
thing,
us.
yeah, watching us. And it's like this ain't right, but it was spot on. And when I mean
Yes.
spot on to the T, and it was just like it gave us helpful tools of realizing, hey, well, you know what, this is where Ty's about to spike right now, right? Or
Hmm.
this is where I might avoid this or whatever. How do we, now that we know what triggers us and how we get into this pattern, now we have tools to get out of the pattern. And I think that those are like the useful things that everyone needs to be aware of. First, as a single, right, to
Yes.
to realize that none of us is perfect, and everyone's got to do the work. And then, as a couple, to realize that there's a lot of things I got to do to put somebody else first, right? Doesn't mean that I'm not gonna take care of myself first, but we make concessions, we compromise being
Yeah.
with people for the greater goal. And as long as you got that in mind, you get to the greater goal. But
And
this
I think
generation is a
that's,
little different.
yeah, I think you pointed out something that a lot of people don't understand. There's a greater goal,
Mm,
right? And if you don't know what that greater goal is, then you become weary during seasons where you don't feel like you're connecting, where you feel like your spouse isn't seeing you, right?
mm,
But when you have that greater goal in mind, you understand that this relationship is bigger than me. And that's why I tell every couple, if you don't create anything else in your life, create a marital mission and vision
mm,
statement. Your mission statement tells you where you're trying to go. Your vision statement tells you what it's going to look like when you get there.
mm,
And we forget in every other area of our life, in our businesses, if you go to a corporation anywhere, you are going to see a mission statement. It's important that you understand where you're trying to go. And most couples do not have one.
mm,
And I'm like, why don't you not understand where you're trying to go? And when you put that in your mind, those little things you don't let move you as much because you understand, hey, we have a place that we're trying to get to together.
there you go.
And when we get there, our great, 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 great grandchildren or great, 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 great nieces and nephews or our
Mm,
community, our church,
mm,
whoever, they are going to be impacted because we stayed committed to our
mm,
mission. We didn't drift to the left or to the right. We have fulfilled the calling on our marriage
mm,
because it's bigger than us. And we forget that a lot.
mm. And I'm glad you just pointed out, it's not just us like in a relationship, but you think about the legacy. Like everyone, when you think about legacy, for the most part, people think about monetary, right? But
Mhm.
sometimes we can leave a legacy of hurt and a legacy of frustration, right? Not learning
Mhm.
how to come to terms with who we are or not being able to break some of these patterns, right? So
Yes.
it took me to get outside of my own family to realize that there were other families that handled conflicts differently, right? My wife and I were paired perfectly, in my opinion, right? And it was just like, her family is not confrontational. My family
Mhm.
is, right? So I had to learn how to be less confrontational and realizing that there's benefits to that, right? And
Yes.
for hers, realizing that you just can't overlook everything, right? Some
Yes.
things need to be addressed, right? And creating
Yes.
your own boundaries within your family or outside of your family with your friends, right? And it's just like, so those are like it's like the everyday journey to get better, to evolve. But a lot of it comes with, you also mentioned earlier, having a supportive cast around you. And I'd
Yes.
like to lead me to my next question because, you know, how do you know that friends, family, the world is for you? And how do you recognize some signs that a person or persons may not be for you? In your
Yes. That's
experience.
good. That's a good question. I like to say you want people who are for your relationship, not just for you.
Mm,
Right? I mean, who doesn't want everybody around you to tell you that you're right and your spouse is wrong?
mm,
But when you have people in your life who are for you, they're number one going to point you back to why you married this person. They're going to give you tools to help you invest in your relationship, not tools to help you get out of it, right?
mm,
They are going to point out the great things that you said about your spouse previously, even though you may not want to hear them. They're going to talk to you about resources that can help you in regards to dealing with whatever issue that you're facing. People who are not for your relationship are always going to give you a way out.
mm,
They're not going to talk about reconciliation. They're going to talk about you deserve this, you deserve that.
mm.
And maybe you do deserve those things, but it doesn't mean that you can't have them within a healthy relationship because you also deserve to do the work so
Yes.
that you can have the vision, so that you can see the vision come to pass. And we live in a society now where if it's not working for you, you can just quit, you can just move on, you can give up. But for me, I was taught if you really want something, you work hard at it.
Mm,
And then there are seasons where you don't see it, like an off season, right? If you ever played a sport, there's an off season, but you're still
mm,
doing the training, you're just not playing the game.
mm,
You're still training to prepare for what's to come. And that's how you know when people are for you. They are telling you, keep training, keep forgiving, keep
mm,
loving, keep going after what it is that you want, keep believing the best, right?
mm.
Now, I always say this. That's not to say this if you are in an abusive relationship, right? They should
Correct.
tell you to get somewhere safe. But outside of the abuse or the consistent adultery, when the person
Mm.
is not trying to get better, people should be pointing you towards reconciliation.
I
Those are the only
appreciate
two
that.
times where they might say get somewhere safe, get some intensive counseling. That's when it should be a little bit more outward, right? But other than that, they should be pointing you towards resources and encouragement.
I like that. I like it. It's because, there are ways and situations where there needs to be an out. And right. And,
Yes,
and and even how you get to there and how you create that out doesn't have to be as chaotic sometimes too, right? And that's
agree.
just being as fair as possible, just realizing there's no one size shoe for anything. But what you said
Yeah,
earlier reminded me of what my mom said to my wife and I early on, and she said, she said, Ty, and she said this to my wife too, but she's always talking to me because my wife, I mean, my mom was a huge feminist. So rest in peace to her. But she's a huge feminist. And she would always be like, I don't care who you with. I'm always siding with her. Right. So, but one of the things she told us early was that she says, you want people in your relationship that are advocating for both of you. And that's something that you just
yes,
said, right? Not just advocating for Ty because I know him, or who that person is because I know her, but are advocating for the both of you. And now being 12 years in with my wife, I realize how important that is to keep
yeah.
yourself surrounded with people who want you both to win. Right? I don't want to just win, right? Or I don't just want
You
her to just
can't
win.
just win in a marriage.
Yeah, not at all.
You either
Yeah.
both win or both lose.
Yep. Hmm. And then losing to your spouse is not the same as losing, right?
Yeah,
And that's one of the things that we've learned too, right? It's just like losing to your spouse is not the same as losing, right? Because
yes,
hopefully, even in that defeat, right, you're still working toward that greater goal, which is having something better for yourselves, for your children, for your legacies, right?
yes. I
Yeah.
agree.
Yeah. Let me see. Let me see. Oh, you take. Listen. People always tell me they was like Tyrell. Yeah. You. I love talking to you about relationships. I can talk about relationships all day. So that's why I was super excited to get you on anyway. It's like it's just it's always so much work to do, and it's the beauty of it. It's a never ending process. So I'm always, like I said, I tune into you when you're live. I watch the stuff that you post because I'm always looking for helpful tools, and I think you know that's one of the things I would like to leave to people. Find encouragement. Find people. Like people always say, relationship goals. Like we all have to define what our own goals are, right?
Yes.
Stop trying to compare it to Sierra's prayer for Russell Wilson, or stop trying to compare it to Michelle Obama and Barack Obama. Though
Yes.
everyone always focuses on Michelle saying how out of 30 years, there was a 10-year span where I didn't like him. But I tell people, did you listen to the rest of the clip?
Nope.
Right? So
They
no,
didn't.
so yeah, clickbait. It's like, see, it's okay for me not to like you. It's like you listen to the rest of the clip. So but I think in identifying, those images or the people who we would like to emulate, it is very important to realize that they are their own individuals with their own goals, their own plans, and
Yes.
their own struggles. You are going to be your own person with your own goals, your own struggles. But it's okay to have people to aspire towards certain aspects, and then it's also
Sure.
important to create your own healthy reality so that way you're not constantly in competition, or
Yes.
um, not content. That's a really
Mhm.
big one. How do you feel about contentment versus complacency?
Yeah, that's a good question.
Yeah, listen. As soon as I said it, I was just like, oh.
That's a good question, and I'm glad you asked it because I think contentment is okay. We set a goal that we're going to purchase a house. This is our first house, right? So we purchase this house and we're going to be content because right now this is what we can afford. This is helping us as a couple. All right. Now we done had 2 or 3 kids. All right. We don't want to remain here because these kids are going to outgrow this 2 bedroom townhouse, right? Only so
Yeah.
many bunk beds you can put in the room. Right. So right when it was just us two, this was good. This was great. But for where we are now, this is no longer working. So, what do we need to do to accomplish what's next for us?
Mm,
Like, take some time to appreciate where you are. That's the contentment. Appreciate where you are. But that doesn't mean that you don't set that next goal for where you want to be next, right? Where do we want to be next? And I think that's the importance of what I call marriage maintenance,
mm,
constantly checking in. Okay, this worked for this season, but it may not work for this next one. So, what do we need to do in order to prepare for our next?
mm,
And I think that's how you prevent complacency, but you also get to enjoy the contentment of what you have begun to build together and how you have accomplished that goal that you set. And when you see that savings, oh, we have our first nest egg, enjoy that. Let it marinate for a little bit.
mm.
And then okay, so now what's our next?
There you go.
I think couples can get discontent, especially when you have someone that's very driven and they're
Mm,
always forward thinking and they're like, oh, they're not moving along with me as quickly as I am. Understanding that each person has their own growth season. And as long as you both are continuing to grow, even though you may not be growing at the same rate or the same time,
mm.
as long as you're both continuing to grow, you'll get there. But we can't look at the season where we've accomplished something and just be like, all right, what's next? Like, sit there for a little bit.
I love it. Yeah, because you want to be able to appreciate the journey. You want to be able to
Yes.
examine what I learned, what worked, what didn't. Constantly doing a SWOT analysis.
SWOT
Basically,
analysis.
these are my strengths, these are our strengths, these are our weaknesses. Here's our opportunities to get better. Or here's the threats that we got to worry about in today's world of social media and summer seasons. Right? Here's the
Some
threats.
season.
Here's the threats. So.
But that's it. That's literally it. Like I tell them, like your marriage is your business.
Mm,
You should have mission, vision, goals. You should be doing SWOT analysis.
mm,
You should be doing growth plans. Like all the things that you would do to grow a business, you should be doing within your marriage.
mm.
And I don't know why we want to separate the two. Anything that you want to be successful at, you have those systems in place. So why aren't there systems in place for your marriage? And it doesn't mean that it has to operate like mechanically, like
Mm.
this, then this, then this. Yes, you're going to have the emotion, you're going to have the passion, you're going to have all the greatness in it, but you still should have some structure around your relationship.
I agree. I agree. And I want to tell everybody, on top of where did I put it? On top of being a marriage coach, Laura is also an author and speaker, motivational speaker. But please tell us a little bit more about your first baby, and then you can tell us about the second one as well, and what kind of tools, what are the helpful resources that I'm going to be able to gain because I ordered my first copy. I'm just waiting for it to come. So, but tell us about your first baby. How did it come about, and why was it important for you to author that book?
Thank you for asking that. Your marriage is worth fighting for is my first baby. And I created that journal with the mind that if I could tell my siblings anything about relationships, what would I want to tell them? This was going to be a Christmas gift for my siblings. And so
Mm,
what I did was I broke down First Corinthians and what does love look like? And I put scenarios around it. And then how could you navigate through those scenarios? And then each journal entry ends with a prayer and then a note section for you to jot down your own prayer or your own thoughts or how you want to incorporate this into your relationship. Growing up, we didn't see a lot of healthy marriages. I understood that once I was in marriage and I realized that my thinking, my mindset, my actions weren't aligning with what I knew I had read in the Bible, what I had
mm,
heard in church, but they were more so aligning with what I saw growing up. And I knew a change needed to happen inside of me, right? In order for me to have what God has promised me, I knew that the change had to happen inside of my heart. So I began to dig in His Word and I began to challenge myself to apply His Word, not just read it, not just being a hearer of it, but a
yep.
doer of it. And so I would just write down different things that really help encourage me. And I put those in Your Marriage is Worth Fighting For.
Mm, mm,
So I get a lot of kickback because, especially from women, about we shouldn't have to fight. But I'm not saying that you are fighting for your spouse to love you, right? I'm
mhm,
saying you're fighting for the mission that you two were joined together to accomplish. And I
mm,
think that anything that we want in life, I just have that mentality. I played sports all my life.
yep.
You work hard, you fight for it. And I think when it comes to marriage, we're so quick to give up when things aren't going the way that we thought they should versus digging or looking inwardly and
Mm,
realizing, okay, how can I show up better? How can I be more understanding, more compassionate, more empathetic,
mm,
right? And then
mm,
hopefully your spouse returns that because, like you said at the very beginning, you both have to do the work.
yep. Yep. Yeah. Yeah. In it's some of the most humbling work you can ever do, but it's probably one of the best things that you can ever do. Like I tell everyone always asks me like, how did I go from a chasing tail to, being happily committed for 12 years, right? And it's just like um, I was content on changing who I was, right? I
Yes.
didn't want that. And I didn't want to be everybody's good time every time. And I say this openly now, right? And I'm saying it especially to you men listening in, right? Because they'll always ask, like, how do you go from here to here, Ty? And I'm just
Mhm.
like, well, you have to be willing to examine yourself and look at yourself and ask yourself, when have you had enough? And for most men, when they have had enough, you know, they'll change, they'll do better. And I tell all my women friends, I say, listen, you cannot change somebody before their time. The worst thing you can ever do is try to force a man into a situation that he's not ready for. Look for a person, one who has done the work or is doing the work, right? I got a lot of guys that I mentor right now, and one of them is saying, listen, don't get with someone who is unwilling to do therapy, right? Therapy is very important, right? And being able to be open minded to do that for yourself and for the other person.
Yes.
But God, right? My commitment as I started to learn God's word a lot better than what it used to be, right? It was like, okay, well, you know what? God's holding me to a higher standard too. So
Yes.
it's not so much about how I just show up for my wife, but it's also about how I show up based upon the promises that God has promised to me, and how am I making sure that I do my part too. right? And I think
Absolutely.
in a lot of relationships today, people are doing it based upon their feelings, how I feel at the time, not what God tells me what my position is, what my role is, what my job is, what your position is, what your role is. And I think that without a foundation or a place to come back to for guidance,
Yeah.
we're doing it on our own. And if we're doing it on our own, expect disaster, expect calamity.
Expect it.
Yeah,
That is going to lead us straight to disaster.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, so I always, like I said, good friends should point you to, stay in the
Mhm.
right circumstances, right? Not,
Yeah.
I mean, taking away abuse or constant adultery, right? They should force you to or push you in that to help you
Mhm.
stay, right? And they should also, help to remind you and push you towards whatever your spiritual foundation is to get strengthened from that. For mine is God, but it's just like realize you can't just depend on your own feelings. Our feelings are what is the word? Fickle. They
Yes,
change all of the time. So,
all the
and
time.
as a Virgo, as an emotional person and a vacillator, I have had to learn to process my feelings and to realize that just because I feel this way right now in this moment, it's a World War III. It really isn't. If I give myself
Mhm.
30 minutes to sit back and be like, oh, okay, I was about to blow everything up for nothing.
For
So,
nothing.
so, but yeah.
So funny. That's so funny. And so the second book is a 21-day prayer journal for wives.
Mm,
And we pray for our husband as the priest, as a provider, and as a protector.
mm,
We spend 7 days on each of those topics, and we pray through it. And what I really wanted to do, that was based off of coaching,
mm.
hearing a lot of women feel like their spouse isn't being those things. I don't want, well, I'll tell you. Look, I'll tell you in this. The reason why I did 7 days is if they look at it, I showed provision in many different ways. I showed protector in many different ways. I showed priest in many different ways because for some reason, when we hear those words, we think of one thing. But there are so
Money.
many different ways you can do. You can be a priest. It doesn't mean that he's sitting down and leading the family through Bible study, but is he praying? Is he
Mm,
making sure that you're going to church? Is he creating an environment where God is welcomed in the home? Like, understand that how your husband shows up as a priest may be different than how someone else's
mm,
husband, or different from what you think they should be showing up as. Protector. How are they protecting your emotions? Not just your home, not just you
mm.
physically. How are they protecting your emotions? How are they protecting you spiritually? And so I sort of slid that in there to plant some different
Mm,
seeds
mm.
because I don't want them to get fixated on one thing and one thing alone.
Gotcha.
These are the
Gotcha.
many components in God's word where they're talking
Yep.
about provision, protector, and priest that we can look at these topics and understand, hey, well, he is sort of being the priest of our home because he's doing this. And so when you spend time praying for someone, it gives you a different perspective about them. And hopefully, the perspective that the ladies get is God's perspective on how he's
Mm.
viewing his son, who he trusts them to help.
Mm. I love that. And it's like, a lot of women will hear that, there's no accountability for the man in that, but it really is because like you want to be able to listen to someone who first is trying to find their relationship and their footing in God, right? And like I said, I got a lot of friends, both male and females, but I say this like if you got a person that is trying to have a foundation and their a foundation in God, that's a great foundation
Yeah,
to build something around, right? Doesn't
yeah,
mean that that person may be exactly where they need to be, but it's a great healthy place because you know that their source is not ultimately themselves,
yeah.
right? Their source is like, okay, well, you know what? I know there's a level of accountability that God is holding me to here too, right?
Mhm.
And and I think that when you said provisions earlier, I was doing this with my hand. I was doing what's that football player? I can't think of his name who used to do this. Anyway, he's not in there anymore. He's in the XFL. But when I heard of provision, I think the common thing that always comes to mind is, finances, right? Like,
Mhm.
how are you financially providing? You got arguments on 50-50. You got arguments on 100 to 0, provisions. When people think about provisions, they don't think about, how are you keeping us safe, right? How are you
Mhm.
praying for us? How are you leading
Yes.
us? And I think that, we have to get to a place where we have healthier eyes. Unless I got 3 boys, right? And like my job is to teach them to look at women and to look at scenarios from a different perspective than what I was trained to look at women, right? And it's just like, okay, well, you know what? Let me look for somebody who has these particular things or has a foundation here, not just the things that look good at the time. I'm old
Yes.
enough to realize that beauty fades, right? So but teaching people how to have better eyes, and provision is a big one. And then there's always that one that stands out to me, because I know you said you work with a lot of women. So submission. you know uh you hear the word submission, and it's just like, submit to who? Submit to what? So how does submission show up as you're working with relationships, and you're working with couples? What is the general consensus or feeling around the word submission?
So let me tell you, I love it because they get so mad at me when I do this to them. It gets me tickled every single time. So if we break it down, the prefix sub means under, mission. We already talked about what mission means. To get under the mission. If you don't have a mission to get under,
Mm,
there's no need to have a conversation about it, right?
yep.
But if you have a mission and you understand why God has called you together and you're saying this is what we're working towards, what's the argument about?
Mm,
There's none. This is what God has called us to. This is the role I play in it. This is the role you play in it. I'm under the mission. I'm submitted. And we
mm,
move on from that. The word is very clear about it. And I don't understand why we want to debate those scriptures.
mm-hmm.
Why are we
Well,
debating God? Who do we really think we are?
mm-hmm.
We're not that great. We're not that powerful.
Mm-mm. Mm-mm.
But if you
Yep.
just
We
break it
like
down,
we like the provision scriptures. He's going to provide, an overflow, an abundance, a life of abundance. But there's these other ones too that says, live within this, these parameters. And I think that, you know, uh, I think the word submission could rub someone a certain way. It's like, I'm giving over my authority or my control over my life to this person. But it's like, in Ephesians it says, two is better than one. I think it's in Ephesians, right? But it's just like,
Ecclesiastes,
huh?
Ecclesiastes,
Oh, is it Ecclesiastes?
the
Okay, well,
other
I love it.
E,
I,
the
I love
other
the book of
E.
Ecclesiastes too.
Yeah,
So Ephesians and
Ephesians is the
Ecclesiastes,
submission verse. Yeah.
there you go. All right. So but it's just like you can get more. And I told someone this on a podcast I was featured on. That's like, the cheat code is being able to work together. So if that's in Ecclesiastes, like, two is better than one. So imagine trying to do this thing called life by yourself, right? Doesn't
Yeah.
mean that you can't do it, right? A lot of people do it, but was that the way it was built? Was that the way it was designed? It wasn't designed for us to do it by ourselves. So sometimes we got to die a little bit to ourselves to realize that we're going to gain more doing it together. My 2 cents.
No, but that is entirely what this year's conference is about.
Ooh, let's
It's
get to
like,
it, actually.
it is like that was the perfect segue.
Mm,
And no, like, team becoming one is a mindset. I've rented out a sports facility because
mm,
we are going into the locker room. We're
mm,
going into the training room. Like, don't come dressed up. Come with your sneakers and your athletic gear on. We're playing flag football. We
mm,
are learning. We are going to understand what it's like to create this relationship playbook
mm,
where it gets you out of this I can do this by myself mentality to we can do this as a team mentality. Breaking down what it looks like to operate as a team because a lot of people don't know.
mm,
And I think for me, I can make that transition a lot better because, like I said, I played sports my entire life. And so I understand the importance of recognizing each other's strengths, understanding how to assist someone else. There's no way I'm throwing my teammate an alley-oop when she asks me for a bounce pass. There's
mm,
no way I'm doing it, right? I'm
right,
going to put you in the best situation so that you can score, so that we can win, no matter what. Every single time playing flag football, I'm going to block for you.
mm,
If that's what it takes for you to get those yards so we can get the first down and we can win this game, I'm going to do that. I am willing to make the sacrifice. I'm willing to put myself in harm's way for you for the greater good of the team. And all these wonderful business principles and team principles that we learn, we throw out the window when we enter into a relationship. It baffles me.
mm,
It baffles me how quickly we're able to just get rid of all these things that we know work,
mm.
we know are instrumental in us winning together. We're willing to throw them
Proven,
away. And that's how I
proven.
know, proven over
Mhm,
and over and over again. And that's how I know that there is an attack when you get married. Because there's no way you would take these things that you know work and throw them away unless you were facing an opponent, right? That makes you think that these things aren't going to work.
mm, mm,
So I'm excited because I really want to really dig into that team mindset.
mm,
Because when it's just one of you and you feel alone and you feel defeated, you're a lot,
mm.
you're gonna give up a lot quicker. But when you
Okay.
have someone, even in that relationship where you might be defeated, but that person is choosing to love you, that person is still choosing to do whatever they do to make you happy, even though in that moment you may be frustrated or angry, you're more
Mm,
likely to come back to the team. I didn't like all of my teammates,
mm.
but it didn't stop me from getting a rebound and passing them the ball so they could shoot the shot. So why would I do that in my marriage? I could be mad at you and still make sure that I'm there to help you.
Mm.
You can do it. You've done it before. You do it at work.
Do it at work.
You do it with your kids,
Yep, yep.
right? You can do it. We
Mm,
just choose not to. And
mm,
that's what I want to get to. Why are we choosing to let our teammate be out there on their own,
mm.
barely surviving, when we know that we have the tools to help the whole relationship thrive?
I gotta ask this: how do we find information on this year's conference? Like I said, I'm going to be sure to put the information to your website as well as the social media handles. But when is this year's conference,
October the
and how do
12th.
we get as many people registered?
It's October the 12th and registration opens June the 1st. Yes, and I just love it. I love it. I'm excited about what we're gonna do.
All right. All right. Listen, I think it's extremely important to have a supportive cast around you, to be around like-minded individuals. So as much as possible to help promote it. Once I start seeing everything forward, I'll be sure to reshare it. I always reshare a lot of your content in the group chats that I have anyway. So because it's important to be able to get a positive word, an encouraging word, and a
Yeah.
supportive word. So be able to come out to this conference in October to gain some additional tools that can actually help you individually and then help you in your relationship or your marriage, so that way you have or we can create a new path of generational wealth that is
There
not
we
just
go.
limited to finances, though finances is very important, but also leaves our children with a path forward on how to have a healthy relationship and know what to expect and what not to expect.
There we go.
Yeah, yeah. So
I
this ain't good. Let that go.
let that go.
Yeah.
And then you have this resource that your kids will always be able to go back and listen to, right?
Mm,
Our voice, our words can be left
yep,
here. We didn't have that.
yep.
What does dad say about what does great 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 granddad Ty have to say about this topic?
Mhm,
Your voice is left here for them to hear it. And I think that's why it's so amazing that you use your community to talk about topics that are important, because you are going to be able to have generations, your bloodline, listen to your words, even when they may not be able to see you.
I love it. Hey, well, listen, Laura, I want to say thank you. There are so many things because this is like one of my favorite topics. So there's so many things that I probably could have picked your brain on, but I also believe in allowing it to go organically where it needs to go. And I think that you have been, not I think, I know you have been a helpful resource for me personally. So I love staying tuned into what you got going on. I wish you an abundance of success in the fall once this conference comes around. But I'm also going to do my best to make sure that people know about Laura. Get hers, so, you know what I mean. But because we need those healthy reminders and we need resources, right? So I'm always suggesting therapy for my friends. I'm suggesting books, and I'm doing this stuff because I suggested it for myself first and foremost,
Mhm.
right? And there's a lot of benefits to having a coach. There's a lot of benefits to having a supportive environment, and you will be one of those people to help so many other people. So thank you for continuing to serve because it is a ministry. And thank you for continuing to be vulnerable enough to share with the public on ways to have a healthier and successful relationship and marriage because you are important, your skills are important, and I hope people realize the value of having a coach. And I think everyone needs a coach. A coach, even your best coaches have a coach. Your
Yes,
therapist has a therapist, right?
yes.
And, don't shy away from it because of the cost associated with it. It'll be the best investment you can ever invest in yourself on. So thank you for being the resource for the community. And Laura, I can't wait to get your story out to the people.
Oh, thank you again for having me.
My pleasure. Well, listen, enjoy the rest of your day, and I'll play catch up with you later. Uh, until next time, everyone, this is season 4 of the Back Community. Dream bigger. See you guys in the fall. And we have this episode to digest for the summer. Get those resources, how we love, relationship goals. Laura has 2 books herself that I'm also going to put in there as well, so that I don't chew up the titles. Give me both titles to the ebook and the other journal.
Your marriage is worth fighting for, and pray hard, love harder.
All right, yeah, and learn how to fight fair. I see
Yeah.
her talk about this all the time. So fighting is good. Ain't nothing wrong with conflict, but learn how to fight fair. But the back community, man, guys, have a great one. Play catch up with you guys on season 5. Have a good one.
Keep climbing up the ladder. A Black Lives Matter. They matter. Matter. So all you young people, give me all. 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 Matter, matter. A Black Lives Matter. They matter, they matter. A Black Lives Matter.